right? So you give all this power to the problem. This is what we do all the time. I see it all the time. I've done it myself. I don't really do it so much at all, really, anymore, because I know this game that the ego plays. The ego plays this game where it says, there is a problem, it has power over me, and now it's up here and I'm down here. So I have to struggle to try to solve the problem so I can get the power back. The assumption is you don't have power, and that's the problem. Okay, so today I want to talk about how you deal with problems. I want to talk about this. I don't want to start. A lot of people come to me because they're trying to deal with their problems, right? A lot of people come to me because they're lost. They don't know how to deal with their problems, right? And that's completely fine. I go to people when I don't know how to deal with my problems, so people come to me when they don't know how to deal with their problems, right? So what we tend to do is we have something in our life that seems to be a problem. I'm not getting where I need to go. The situation with a relationship isn't working out. My weight is stuck. It could be there's 50 million things that could be a problem, right? My spiritual path is stuck. I'm lost. I don't know if I should go this way or if I should go this way, right? All of these are kind of forms of problems, right? So there's all these different forms of problems. And so what we tend to do is we tend to say, that's a problem. This is a problem. So I'm going to have to figure it out, right? A lot of times what we do is the first thing we do is we say, I got to figure it out. Okay. So I'm going to figure this problem out in hopes that once I figure it out, then it will change. And many times it does. Many times it does. Right. Or you have a problem and you start to try to negotiate your way through it, meaning, well, maybe I have this problem because I'm not giving enough to the situation. Maybe I have this problem because I'm giving too much to the situation. Maybe I'm having this problem because the way that I'm being isn't the right way of being. Maybe I need to negotiate how I act, talk, or am in the situation, right? Or you start negotiating with the other person if it's a problem involving another person, or if it's a problem involving your business, right? So you start negotiating. Maybe I should do that, and maybe I should do this, right? So you try to figure it out. You try to negotiate. And then, another thing that we do is that we tend to say, oh, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. And we say, okay, why do we have a problem? Why is this happening? So the next tactic is to analyze it. You start to analyze it. Maybe it's because I do this and this and this, and I should be doing that and that and that. But maybe that's wrong. Maybe I need to figure out why I do that thing that seemed to be getting me the results, right? So let's just go through it again. You try to figure it out. You try to negotiate with it. You try to analyze it, right? So those are three things that you do when you have a problem in general. You also, another big part of problems is that we resist them. So what I just said, figuring it out, negotiating it, analyzing it, all of those things are resisting the problem. We're resisting the problem because, of course, the problem doesn't feel good, right? The problem doesn't feel good. That's a no-brainer. The problem doesn't feel good. So you go, well, I have to try to change it. I have to move it around. I have to solve the problem. And so we are in a resistant vibration. What are we in? We're in a resistant vibration. So I have to lay this groundwork for you before we start talking about how you deal with, well, this is how you deal with the problems, right? So say yes if you have tried these tactics before and they haven't worked. Or say yes if you've tried these tactics before and it's kept the problem going. Or say yes if you tried these tactics before and they've worked. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. So sometimes you do them and it makes it worse. Sometimes you do them, you don't get any results. Sometimes you do them and you might get a result. All of those are good. All of those are good. But the underlying assumption here, the underlying assumption when you have a problem is that the problem is a problem, right? So, in the Course in Miracles, it will say a couple things about problems. First of all, one of my all-time favorite quotes from the Course in Miracles is, your problem is you think you have a problem, and that's your problem. Let me say that again. Your problem is you think, clue word, think you have a problem, and that's your problem. So the situation with your business, you think it's a problem. So immediately, I'm just pulling that out, you immediately assign a meaning to the thing that's a problem. So when you assign the meaning to that thing, you immediately are into, I have to analyze it, I have to figure out, I have to solve the problem. Or something has to be done because there's no room for problems in your life, right? We are so ingrained into resisting what doesn't feel good and going to what does feel good. And that's not always the best thing, because when we're doing that consistently, we are subconsciously giving the problem more power than it probably has, because you're giving a meaning to it. So when you give the problem the power, this is what we do. We give the problem the power. We lose the true power that we have. We don't ever lose it, but we lose sight of it. That your power that's already here, that's connected to God's source, love, and grace, that is far bigger, far more effective, far more insightful, loving, and is the ultimate problem solver than you trying to figure it out, right? So you give all this power to the problem. This is what we do all the time. I see it all the time. I've done it myself. I don't really do it so much at all, really, anymore, because I know this game that the ego plays. The ego plays this game where it says, there is a problem, it has power over me, and now it's up here, and I'm down here. So I have to struggle to try to solve the problem so I can get the power back. The assumption is you don't have power, and that's the problem. Your problem is you think that that's a problem, and it's not a problem. Do you get it? This is big. This is big. This is why you do the work, to remember yourself and your connection with love, God, and grace. There is nothing in the world that can ever be more powerful. No problem in the world, no strife in the world, no suffering in the world that can ever have more power than your connection with God. Take a deep breath. So let's get into, now that you've decided that you have a problem, what do you do? Do you do nothing? You might do nothing. One of the most important things in the Course in Miracles is in your life, is to know when not to do anything. I need do nothing is one of the most powerful places you can be. I need do nothing. You stand in your power. You're not retreating, you're standing in your power, right? You just stand in your power and you don't do anything unless you are guided to, unless you're guided to. And when you practice, when you work, you go, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. Okay. Or shut up, or just shut up and don't do anything, right? So let me say this. In the Course in Miracles also, it says, teaches us you have to know the problem before it can be solved, right? That's huge. That's huge. So first of all, you have to know the problem before it can be solved. You have to acknowledge the problem. The reason it says that you have to acknowledge, you have to know the problem before it can be solved, is that if you don't know it's a problem, it's just going to keep running your life, right? If it doesn't, this is what happens to many people. Tell me if this is true for you. Or has been true in the past. You've accepted behavior, accepted circumstances, you've accepted situations, experiences over and over and over and over in your life because you thought that's just the way it was. And then one day, or maybe a little while, it's built up where you start to go, why am I accepting that behavior? That doesn't feel good. And you realize you have a choice, right? That's when you recognize a problem. So you have to recognize a problem so then you can make a choice. So that's why he says the problem needs to be recognized before it can be solved. Okay? So in the illusion, in the dream state, you have to recognize that that is not feeling good and that's not right. So this is the first step. You have to recognize that, right? And then this is what Jesus would teach in the Course in Miracles. He would say, self-initiated plans are always from the ego. So once you recognize there's a problem, once you see that there's something in the relationship, in yourself, in whatever, you have to recognize the problem before it can be solved, and you have to say to yourself, what is the meaning I'm giving to the problem? What's the meaning I'm giving to the problem? And then stop and say, oh, I think this is a problem. But literally, most problems, instead of trying to solve them, because usually when you're trying to solve the problem or analyze it, you're trying to get it out of the way. It's teaching you something. And you've heard this before. You can say, dear God, tell me where and how this problem, what's it teaching me? What's it guiding me towards? You don't do anything about it, because if you start to try to change it and organize it, you're going to screw up the whole situation because the ego is running the show. So self-initiated plans are always from the ego. So when you go, oh, I know, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this about that person or about that experience or about that thing or about myself. No, shut the fuck up and just go, dear God, I don't know. I've identified the problem. Dear God, you tell me where to go. You tell me what to do. You tell me what to say and do. And then you shut up. Until you are guided. Now, this takes practice, because most people are going to have a hard time not trying to solve the problem. Most people are going to get in there and start analyzing it, figuring it out. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Remember, this is very important in this lesson today. Your being is first. Your doing is second. Even in A Course in Miracles, he says, all your actions are coming from what you believe you are. Yourself, your truth, right? Being comes first, doing comes second. So a lot of times we're like, oh, I have a problem, so that your doing is frantic and trying to control, right? But if your beingness is grounded, if your beingness is peaceful, then the doing is going to be very different than trying to solve the problem. And you won't hear that. This is when you understand, oh my God, that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. That problem is exactly what it's supposed to be, because it is helping me to rediscover my strength. It is helping me to love more. It's helping me to be more productive in I don't know what it is. It's guiding you. Your problems are your gateway to your peace. Your problems are not something that needs to be solved. Your problems, first of all, you're saying that's a problem and that's a problem. These incidences that don't feel good are all the ways that the world, that life, that the dream state is set up so that you can remember who you really are. Right?